Welcome to Making Payments Make Sense, Ecommpay's new podcast, where we strip back the hype and get to what's actually moving the needle in payments. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. For many businesses, payments still sits in the background, right up until it breaks, or until the margins tighten, or until international growth exposes all the weak spots at once. For this episode, we're discussing a hot topic in the industry, and one Ecommpay has been digging into deeply. This conversation is based on a white paper commissioned earlier this year, Making Payments a Profit Center, built on primary research with merchants and payments leaders across e-commerce. We're asking a bigger question. What if payments isn't a cost of doing business, but a profit lever? And if that's true, what does it take to prove it internally, build the right function, choose the right partners, and drive measurable impact? You'll hear James Wood, founder and managing partner at Eris Intelligence, in conversation with Blokker, head of strategic sales and alliances at Ecommpay, Adam Sherlock, fraud and payments manager at FitFlop, Fahim Bakhshi, payments leader at Kinguin, and Mihal Egan, global head of payment operations at Retail InMotion. If you enjoy this episode, subscribe. We've got plenty more practical, no-fluff conversations coming. Let's get into it.
My name is James Wood, and I'm the founder and managing partner at Eris Intelligence. My company undertook the primary research for the white paper we'll be discussing today, and I'm your moderator. Before we get to the panel discussion, I just wanted to say a few words about why Ecommpay commissioned this study, Making Payments a Profit Center, what we wanted to learn, and how we executed the research. Ecommpay commissioned this study to reflect the dynamics of the online retail marketplace and help retailers drive improvements in payments performance. I think all of us are aware of the huge opportunities that exist to improve the profitability and efficiency of payments. Most of you also know how important this is, with more than 3/4 of consumers saying that they'll go elsewhere if they can't use their chosen payment method, or if they experience too much friction, including escalated authentications and multiple personal information requests. Most of us will also be familiar with the huge competition in today's online retail environment, especially across borders. Over the next 5 years, cross-border e-commerce is going to grow 3 times faster than domestic transactions. That means there's more opportunity, but more competition. And in this kind of context, retailers need to offer the right mix of payment methods in each geography, a smooth and rapid checkout experience, and value-added services such as express checkout and after-sales follow-up, which keep customers loyal. In terms of how we approached this exercise, we spoke to merchants at different stages of their payments journey, including the chief executive and founder of outdoor apparel company Finisterre, the VP and global head of customer experience at world-leading music and street media streaming service Spotify, the head of payments at pet food company Blink, the chief executive of a leading European travel and ticketing business, and Paul Rogers, the founder and chair of VendorCon, an organization that represents merchants' interests in payments. Once we'd collated these findings, we were able to present and discuss them at a private meeting in London with 7 more retailers, which I'm pleased to say yielded a lot of further interesting insights. I'd now like to turn to our panelists and the panel discussion. And then I'm going to turn now to Blokker and ask him if he could please tell us what Ecommpay is seeing out there in European e-commerce today.
Thanks, James. And we have a lot of actionable insights to unpack today. So I'm looking forward to diving in together. So based on the study, what we're seeing across Europe is a market that's not just growing, it's also becoming far more diverse. Cautious forecasts put European commerce past $1 trillion mark by 2030. So what we also see is that cross-border is the big engine right now, is growing roughly 3 times faster than domestic. And more merchants are actually building for international buyers from day one. And they consider pricing, logistics, payments, so basically the whole journey. What we're also seeing is a real shift in how people want to pay, wallets, account to account, BNPL. They are becoming core payment methods and not just add-ons. Analysts expected to overtake cards before the end of the decade, which of course changes the economics for our merchants. Something new on the horizon is agentic commerce, so AI agents that shop and pay on behalf of the customers. It's still early, but it could represent almost 1 out of 5 transactions by 2035. So payment infrastructure has to be ready for that kind of non-human buyer. At the same time, we see that B2B marketplaces have experienced rapid growth. They've grown almost 10x since 2020. And any retailer with a B2B channel is either building or joining a marketplace to tap into that demand. So if we zoom out, the pattern is clear. Payments aren't a cost layer anymore. They are a strategic growth lever, helping companies expand faster, run leaner, and stay competitive. That's what we see in the market and where the market is heading right now.
Fantastic. Thank you. So, a core part of this discussion is the importance given to payments within an organization. Fahim, if I can turn to you to ask you first, where do payments sit in your organization, and how have you seen this change in recent times?
Yeah, thank you, James, for the questions. And hi, everyone. Nice to have you here. So, of course, payments sits like a cross-functional team. I represent Kinguin, and Kinguin is a global marketplace where you buy and sell digital products. For that, you need payments globally. You need local payment options. You need local acquirers because you have customers and sellers all over the world. Because it's a cross-functional team at the moment, our organization works with product, with finance, compliance, success, and fraud, manages all the global PSPs, and obviously ensures that there's a proper account management to the PSPs, the relationship management as well, and the vendor management as well. So, making sure that we have this business discussion going on. So yes, of course, it acts like a building bridge between business expansion. So if sometimes company wants to expand in Germany or Japan, we need to have a local payment option. So it works directly with the marketing, with the finance, with the top management as well, and closely works with the risk, fraud, compliance, business intelligence. So maintains a strong control of the digital goods as well. And of course, after I joined, we moved payments to some kind of like cost center and profit center, where we try to negotiate more significantly with the PSPs for better commercials, introduce multiple PSPs, and create a revenue stream into the B2C and B2B model. Of course, we also have like a strong optimization mode where we try to optimize the checkout flow, the success rates improvement, and chargeback exposure was also reduced. So of course, we try to be more professional with the partners, build more relationship. I have a prospect as well. So even if we don't have a PSP which is integrated with us, we try to cooperate with them on a daily basis as well. So faster onboarding of all the payment methods and, supporting more regionals as well. And that's what is maintained on Kinguin side while I joined the company.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Mihal, can I ask you the same question, please? Where do payments sit in Retail in Motion, your organization, and how have you seen that change?
First of all, thanks for having us here, and thanks to Ecommpay really for going out and conducting this survey and putting together this white paper, because I find it very valuable, and I'm sure a lot of the listeners here today will find it very valuable. Within Retail in Motion, we see payments as a strategic enabler. I suppose out there today, you don't see many CPOs or chief payments officers. We don't really see that in the C-suite. Typically where you would see across an organization, you might see a head of payments or a payments manager reporting directly into a COO or a CFO, or indeed, in my case, into the chief technology officer. And just like Faheem, in terms of our organization, it really depends a lot on that collaboration across various different functions within the organization. And that's so important. So it is. I suppose out of the survey, some of the key takeaways that I had from it was that 3 things that are really, really important, for anybody that's considering where payments should sit within the organization. The first of them really is education. The second would be data, and the third would be collaboration. Just to touch on each one of those and the importance of them, and what true from this paper as well is that, when it comes to education, it's so important not only to educate that C-suite and to bring them on board and to educate them payments itself. Like within payments, we don't make it easy for ourselves. We have too many TLAs, and you have to try and translate that. So you really have to be able to communicate that in a way that makes sense to the people that you're communicating it with. And hence why education is so important to your stakeholders that are involved in making the key decisions, the key business decisions. But then within the organization itself, it's so important that everyone from your finance team to your technology team and right down to customer service, that they understand payments and that they're able to communicate effectively across that organization. The second piece that I mentioned there is data. Data is so important for anybody within an organization. I think it was maybe Paul that called it out, Paul from VendorCom that pointed out in the survey, the importance of data as well. The reason you need it to be able to create those business cases and to be able to provide that data-driven business case that will demonstrate to the organization the value of payments. And then in terms of the reporting, it's so important that you have that data to be able to report on your successes and to be able to say at any given point in time, where you sit and how well or even indeed how possibly that underperforming an organization might be. And the third one then, I just referred to it earlier there, was the collaboration and the importance of, Faheem said, each team within any organization understanding payments and to be able to communicate effectively between each one of the teams what it is you're trying to achieve at any given point in time. And I suppose, an example of that and the importance of each of those three. A few years ago, I was presenting a business case to the C-suite where I was at the time. And I communicated to each one of the C-suite beforehand what it is we're trying to achieve out of it. But I couldn't get time with the CEO before we went into that meeting. And the CEO was the one who vetoed that business case that day. Why? Because we didn't have that, or I didn't have that opportunity beforehand to educate, to show them the data and to show how important it was to the organization. So I think going forward, that's so important that you do educate, provide the data, and collaborate with everybody across an organization. They'd probably be the three key takeaways that I would take away, and hence why it's so important for our organization as a strategic enabler.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mihal. If I can ask you, Adam, just to wrap up on this question, if I think about FitFlop, where do payments sit inside FitFlop, and have you seen that change?
Thanks, James. My department covering fraud and payments is a bit of an orphan, covering two complete separate functions that do correlate to each other. Originally, I sat under the operations department, but I've recently migrated underneath the tech department. That has helped me with getting my prioritizations on the roadmap pushed up. Whereas previously I was bashing against all the operations teams on what their priorities were for the limited engineering resource we had. But being in the engineering team now, it's given me a greater chance of pushing my prioritizations forward. The thing that I'll touch on with what Mihal said is there isn't a wide knowledge that the payment team exists within the company. There does seem to be that a lot of employees just assume there's some sort of magic that goes on behind the scenes when people click buy now and all the payments flow through quite happily and the money just goes straight to the finance team. So raising that awareness has been one of my main missions of trying to educate the company on who we are, what we do, and how critical we are to the company. As anybody in payments can attest, as soon as there is a problem in payments for ecom and those payments stop flowing, you become priority number one for everyone.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Some of the things that, just to pick up on what's been said by our panelists in the report, include the challenge of coordinating retail physical payments with e-commerce payments, and indeed also with raising awareness internally of the function. One of the things we'll come to later is the fact that Spotify have actually established a unique payments function inside the company, recognizing how central payments are to the customer experience. So I'm going to ask you first, please, Mihal, how have you seen payments established as a unique function inside Retail InMotion?
It's an interesting question. First of all, I suppose to point out the importance of it. I think it was John Hurley, the CTO from Ryanair, earlier on this year. He was speaking at a conference in Dublin at the time about Ryanair Labs, and he said, well, somebody asked him the question, how does a project get accepted into Ryanair Labs? How do you evaluate it? And he said, it's really quite simple. He said, it either has to make money or save money. Right. So when it comes to evaluating, payments and its value within our company, within Retail in Motion, we have an executive committee that exists there already for all projects across the board. All business cases are evaluated in the same fashion. So that would consist of the C-suite and our investors. So it has to be presented in a given format. And that's where our opportunity to demonstrate, is this going to make money? Is this going to save money? I've always stated that if you're in a business to make money, you're not a charity. In that instance, there has to be some outcome that you can prove. And as I said earlier, the way that we go about it is we take a data-driven approach to that. So we look to our data and try to learn from that and see where can we improve on cost, or where can we improve on conversion. So having that data is really, really important in being able to point us in the right direction, I would say. Suppose on top of that, we also have to be very mindful of our customers. Okay. So that function is directed by our customers as well. And for anybody, whether you're card present, as you mentioned there, or card not present, that omni-channel piece, customer is so important. And the three characteristics of a really good payment method that's out there is that, you need to have cost, it needs to be convenient, and it needs to be trustworthy. So when somebody comes to that checkout, be it in physical or be it virtual, then when they come to that checkout, that if you don't have the given set of payment method that is top of their wallet, and I think as you mentioned earlier on, in terms of that's the paper itself, it calls this out that, 3 out of 4 customers don't actually return if you don't have that preferred payment method there at the checkout. So it's important that, the function itself needs to highlight that and make people aware that, okay, what is it we're trying to achieve in terms of, is it going to make money or save money? And then what does the customer want and how do we provide for that?
Fantastic. So really establishing that P&L credibility for the function. Faheem, you spoke quite a lot about the cross-functional nature of payments inside Kinguin. What work have you done to establish payments as a function in its own right, if you like?
I mean, of course, after I joined, obviously, I think a couple of years ago, payment team was part of finance. Usually, okay, payments is coming from finance, the acceptance of pay-ins, just like cashier. But when I joined, it was more like payments independent role itself. Of course, we, as I mentioned earlier, that we moved it as a cost center profit. We focused more on the fees. It was very important to understand the PSP commercials and also introducing multiple PSP strategies. So there was only one PSP. So if it fails, then of course the whole company, they don't have any payment mechanism or any disaster recovery, obviously. So we did definitely have multiple PSP strategy, which impacted the renegotiation with the PSPs as well. We also have different kind of team within the payments. Obviously, fraud is a part of payments in every organization, most of them. But we separated it. So we have business development in the payments where we have one account managers for the PSPs. And we also have internal account managers who are the point of contact between the PSPs and the payments. So we don't confuse the providers to who they have to contact. So they have one point of contact all the time. And of course, we discussed about the chargeback, how we can tackle the chargebacks, improve some kind of key features, payment filters, understanding, because we are a digital marketplace. So there are different kind of categories like games. They can be prepaid. In games, you have a low risk. In prepaid, you have a high risk in terms of fraud. So we separated it, and looking at that, we created a very nice ecosystem as well. And now Kinguin has probably more than 10 PSPs onboarded, and we are acting globally. So I think, as Mihal mentioned, we have, for example, different APMs in Japan and different APMs in Latin America. So if customers are actually going to, they don't see their preferred payment method, they just don't buy it. And especially we have more gamers, they're more into entertainment. So that's aggregated. So the whole strategy changed. The only problem in the beginning was the organization itself had a hard time to understand why payments has to be independent. But now as we see payment is developing, online e-commerce is actually growing. So that becomes easy for us in restructuring and having new roles.
That's super interesting because in report, Spotify talk a lot about how they've developed a fraud function within payments. They have account managers on a regional basis for certain APMs in particular geographies, and they actually work with external consultants to evaluate APMs before they take them on. Finally, Adam, on this one, if I can turn to you, you've spoken about a switch in your reporting line, and you've spoken about it's the magic of payments, as some people saw it. What work have you done? You mentioned the importance of promoting payments internally. Are there any kind of concrete reporting line steps or functions that you've been able to adopt to establish payments internally inside the company?
Certainly. One of the best things has been to speak a company all hands, stand up in front of the whole company and highlight what it is that we're doing, the impact that we're having on the bottom line for the business, what our goals and aims are, and also open up those lines of communication. How can people talk to our department? How can they send requests or information through to my department that I can then digest? Publishing company-wide announcements when we launch new payment methods as well. Our employees are our best advertisers. If they're not aware that we're now offering, for example, Klarna in the UK, they're not going to go to their friends and families and say, hey, you can use this payment method. So letting them know with communication internally, look, this is what we're offering and what we've got, go out there and spread the word. And setting recurring meetings with key stakeholders, making sure that I'm getting face-to-face time with key people in the company who are driving decisions, highlighting to them what are the challenges that I'm seeing and encountering and what opportunities we had to drive improvements within the business. That's critical. Without that engagement from stakeholders, I just wouldn't get any traction with anything that I'm trying to push through.
Right. And two of the things you've spoken to there, one of the things that came out of the report was the importance of identifying and executing on quick wins. Roy, I'm going to turn to you for your views on that, please.
Thanks, James. And this came through strongly in the interviews for the paper. Quick wins matter because they earn trust. Payments can easily be seen as a technical back office function. So when you show impact relatively quickly, it shifts perception and senior leadership starts paying attention. And I think that also kind of reconciles with what the panel just described. And the easiest place to start is obviously costs, negotiating better terms, optimize your routing, and potentially expanding your acquiring options. These aren't per se massive projects, but they can immediately reduce fees and improve total cost of payment acceptance, but also often at the same time improve the approval rates. And there's the customer journey. So adding the payments people actually prefer, offering local currencies, or enabling express checkout can also lift conversion without necessarily long engineering cycles. Then the back office was also identified I would say, full of hidden wins. Automating chargeback disputes or reconciliation could free up the team, could cut leakage, and normally pays for itself quite quickly. And we had several merchants in the research saying that these were some of their highest ROI moves. What quick wins really do is they build momentum and they show that payments aren't just keeping the lights on, and it's delivering value and opening the door for bigger strategic shifts. So I think it perfectly reconciles what we just also discussed. So with that, James, I'll hand it back to you and the panel.
Fantastic. Thank you. So there's a lot in there about, proving the bottom line value of payments. I think that's coming across to me very strongly. If I can go back to the panel and Adam, ask you specifically, what metrics do you focus on in terms of internal reporting? And, how frequently do you report? Who do you report to? Is there a payment steering committee or is it to the C-suite? How does that work at FitFlop, Adam?
Sure. So there's 5 primary areas that I look at. That's across each of our websites. We look at the authorization rate per payment method. Are there any payment methods that having lower authorization rates? Is there any sort of background reason behind lower rates? We look at the full funnel conversion rate. So that is where we've authorized the transaction and we actually convert it and get the money into our bank. Is there a drop-off in there? What's driving that drop-off? Could it be that we've got lack of stock and we've had to cancel the orders? Do I need to feed anything back to the purchasing team to make sure we've got sufficient stock of products that's being dropped off? We look at the 3DS rate. So we're looking at both friction and exemption rates how we're performing across all our websites. Is there any actions there that can drive off the back of that? Do I need to enhance my exemption procedures? Is there certain bins, for example, that are failing 3DS on a regular basis? Is there something technical that's causing the failures there? I then look at the top 3 rejection rates for transactions. And again, is it technical areas that are causing those rejection rates? Is it areas that are outside of my control? Are there actionable actions that come off the back of that I can lead into? And lastly, I look at chargeback rates. How are we performing with the issuers? Obviously, we don't want to go over any of the thresholds and then start incurring penalties or even risking our mids being harmed. I do this reporting via WBRs, MBRs, and QBRs. I love the acronyms. And I email these out to stakeholders via a PDF with a high-level summary. I archive all these documents for them to reference if they want to go offline. How is it used internally? This is sent up to members of the C-suite who will then respond with questions if they have queries on any particular areas, or if it's highlighting that we've got a pain point, is there process improvements that we can then build on the back of that and prioritize by showing we are losing revenue here because we're putting too much friction into the checkout process, for example.
Okay, great. That's super interesting. One of the things that came out outside of Spotify, who obviously have set up their own payments function, which reports directly into the C-suite, was the importance of steering committees or quarterly meetings, or, I think, Adam, you've used it in an all-hands context about what's going on in payments. Fahim, I'd like to ask you, please, the same question. How do you report internally? At what do you report and to whom?
That's an interesting question because the payments report, everybody's interested. Fraud team to compliance team to obviously the C-suite, the C-levels, top management as well. But obviously I report to the C-levels and, the reports they would like to actually have the high level reporting, mostly what's the authorization rate, what's the conversion rate, how much traffic went to what payment methods are the tops and what customers are actually into. So we are quite a customer-centric platform and we want to focus on what customer actually needs. So if you want to expand in Germany and we don't have, for example, Klarna, they're interested to see what was the conversion rate with Klarna and without Klarna. So that's kind of reporting we did. Of course, as Adam mentioned, we do have a conversion rate, authorization rate. We also have the chargebacks, the fraud rate, and also the dropouts as well. But most importantly, so the reporting is done to company-wide level so they can see what's the conversion, especially what the C-levels are trying to see is if there are no dropouts. So for example, at 2 a.m, if there were no issues and we actually switched payments automatically. So the automation is quite important as well. And that's why even the product team, they are quite interested. But, just to answer the question, the reporting on our side goes to the C-levels.
Wow. Okay. So definitely it's really that importance is established. Mihal, I'm going to ask you the same question, please. The metrics you use for internal reporting and the methodology and the target audience.
I'd report into the C-suite and sit on a senior leadership team. But we'd have a monthly business review where we would review our metrics related to payments as well. Like Adam, we'd have a summary level as well that we would report to the C-suite. I remember at one stage a particular merchant divulging to us that they had over 100 KPIs within the payment sphere. And I found that one difficult to consume because, when you have over 100 KPIs, how do you know which one is your key one? So you really have to distill it down to exactly what that is. What is that key performance indicator that you can go to and that you know immediately whether you're performing better or worse than yesterday, the day before, or the week before. So rather than having hundreds of metrics that you're trying to report on, try to distill it down for your C-suite so that they know immediately and they can tell immediately what it is. Do you have a problem? Do you have an issue? Or even better still, that you can actually demonstrate the value of something that you've added to your product suite. I think when you look at the end-to-end of a funnel, Retail InMotion slightly different, I guess, from the other two merchants on the call here. We're mainly card present at over 30,000 feet in the sky with no connectivity. So we have some other channels or challenges outside of your stereotypical online e-com situation. But the same thing or the same measurement really applies, is that how do you successfully get customer from A to B and to convert? Some of the metrics that you would look at across that multi-channel would be, that order conversion rate, the payment conversion rate, your auth rate, your authentication rate, your settlement rate. And then on the fraud side of things, as Adam mentioned, you'd also have your chargeback rate, your refund rate, and your fraud rate as well. So they would be some of the key metrics that I would look to. And it's best not to boil the ocean with too many metrics as well, because sometimes it's hard to see the wood from the trees then.
Thank you. Can I just ask quickly, being greedy and conscious of time, do you guys undertake benchmarking as part of the reporting process?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
We've actually looked to the schemes to provide that benchmarking as well. So we benchmark to a recent paper from MasterCard as well for the given industry. And it's important when you are benchmarking as well as to actually look at the merchant category code, so that you're comparing apples with apples and not always. There's various other things that you need to take into account when you are benchmarking, so that you're not, let's say, comparing merchant 1 to merchant 2, processor 1 to processor 2. It's so important to actually get underneath the covers and say, well, are we actually comparing like with like? Not to do a before and after. And very often, if you are testing and doing A/B testing, to do that properly and try to distribute it as evenly as possible so that you get a fair view of that benchmarking.
Great. And just very quickly, Fahim and Adam, do you also benchmark, or is your situation so unique?
Well, just to answer that first. So of course we do have some industry benchmarks based on the medium kind of industry we have. So we do that, but we're not into so detailed where we see MasterCard and Visa benchmark. But I think that's a good idea coming from Mihal, because we need to also check that as well. And well, what we do is usually we benchmark the fraud and the chargeback rates. But from the conversion and authorization, that's something we need to look into as well.
Okay. And Adam?
You really do limited benchmarking. We rely on our PSP to provide us what the rate is compared to our industry peers, as Mihal said, making sure it's coming from the right MCC codes.
Cool. Okay, thank you. So I'm going to paint a picture here where we've established where payments sit in an organization. We've successfully established payments as a unique function. We've talked about how we report and benchmark and who we speak to and what metrics we cover. The next step, I think, in building out a payments function is attracting top-level talent. This is also something that respondents to our report spoke about. Fahim, I'm going to ask you first, please. What steps have you taken to sell the function and the company, if you will, to talented payments executives?
And that's a very interesting question, because at the moment we are hiring, and even today in the morning, I had an interview with potential payments manager as well. And obviously I was asked by the candidate itself. So why do you think I should join Kinguin? Especially the payments team, I think it's very interactive because we are a kind of a cross-functional team. So we definitely, whoever joins us, have an exposure to work with the legal team, with the product team, BI team, compliance, fraud, and even marketing. So for the start, when we onboard a payment method, we discuss with the legal, we discuss with the product tech team, and then later on we do a lot of marketing as well. And because we are a global company, we have an exposure to work with multiple PSPs externally from different parts of the world. So we don't have only Europe, but we also have Asia, Latin, Africa region. So that's an exposure to discuss, meet people from that particular zone, maybe learn something new about the payment methods as well, on how it works. So that's a kind of attraction we have. And also, obviously, the HR does a wonderful job before I even move to the call. But regarding the domain knowledge or the industry knowledge, it's very important for the payments manager to have this insight of how payment works. But I think Kinguin is one of those rare marketplaces where you can work with multiple PSPs and global payment providers. So that's how we definitely attract. And it's a kind of a very interactive, because we not only add PSP, So, for example, if you added some PSPs in LATAM, we also do some kind of cross-border marketing later on. So it becomes more, we do some kind of like a cross promotion. So that actually helps. And then the talent actually can gain multiple experience. So not only fintech, but marketing, compliance, legal, and all those things. So that's the kind of points we use to attract talents. And I'm still looking for, and I hope we find the best talent for now.
Cool. One of the things that came out of the report was that one organization taking the decision to make payments more significant inside its organization actually went out and made a huge hire from a very well-known online marketplace. And that person was influential in their own right in bringing people into the company. Mihal, can I ask you how you go about attracting talent into Retail InMotion?
Sure. I think it starts at that point there is that you really have to bring in the subject matter expert first. And once you have that person on board, then that's where you start building out the team from. And coincidentally, same as Faheem, we're recruiting as well at the moment for a senior payment product manager. And two of the characteristics, I suppose, that I've called out here that I really value when we're recruiting is one of them is curiosity. If you get that person that's curious, continually ask you why, a bit like your children, they're continually asking you why. That's what you want to see. And you also want to see the second one is passion. That passion for payments and the passion to deliver all these things that we've spoken about already. So we're quite fortunate in that we have great support from the C-suite where we do present, as I mentioned earlier, when we do present those business cases to that investment committee, that they will support that and follow it through. So I think when you take on board, was it Daniel Pink's Drive was the name of the book, where he mentioned it was 3 characteristics that you look for, or that people look for these days out of their roles, which is autonomy, mastery, and I always forget the third, purpose. There you go. So I hope that's what we use to really to try and drive payments internally, and where you can see that you're delivering and where you can see that you're moving the needle. To your point earlier on, like it just in terms of, I think it was Roy, you made the point, on the quick wins, that, if you can get those quick wins, very often the first place that you turn to is cost. Why? Because like that goes directly down to EBITDA. Whereas like you could have a lot of effort creating a new product that will create hundreds of millions, but if at the end of the day, it's only contributing 0.000001% to EBITDA, then it's an awful lot of effort for very little reward. So it's important to demonstrate the wins that you do have and how that contributes to the bottom line. And I think no better place than within payments to be able to demonstrate that.
Yeah, I'm actually not recruiting. I've got a very tenured team and quite a small team. Recruitment hasn't unfortunately fallen under my remit in my tenure here. What I would say is that as an employee of any company, you're the brand ambassador and you should be pushing that out wherever possible. 5 FitFlops. You should utilize existing networks that you have, like LinkedIn. If you've got partners on LinkedIn there, and you see that they're a fit for department internally, most companies have a really good referral program. Plug them in through that and earn yourself a bit of extra cash that way. Piggyback on what Mihal said, definitely that curiosity, definitely one thing you need from an employee. They've got to be able to look under the hood and go, why does this cable go here? Why is this doing that? And that bias for action, they've got to roll up their sleeves and get into the nitty gritty.
Great. Awesome. Roy, I'm going to ask you first, please, what you see as the benefits to e-commerce businesses of partnering with either a single external partner or multiple external partners across geographies and functions.
Well, I'm actually also very much looking forward to Fahim's answer, because he mentioned there he's managing 10 different partners. So that's a lot. So looking forward to that as well. But in terms of the research, the message from the merchant was actually quite consistent. So partnerships lets their business scale capabilities without necessarily scaling complexity. And what was also mentioned is that the right partners are bring the right expertise, technology, and reach that would otherwise take years to build internally. There's also a clear financial upside. So outsourcing the right pieces can cut costs by double digits and free up a significant amount of manual work. And that could be even something as outsourcing PCI assessment, which could remove a significant internal burden. Pay and performance is another major driver. So the right partners can deliver up to 25% savings on the transaction costs through better routing, optimized fees, and smarter operations. Then also layering in orchestration or data enrichment, and you can lift approval rates while making the checkout experience more seamless and faster. Across the interviews, every leading merchant works with multiple partners, not per se to create complexity, but to preserve their independence, to keep the possibility to A/B test and maintain negotiating power. And it also became clear that no single provider excels at everything. So cross-border fraud, prevention, FX, and local payment methods all demand specialists. In the end, to sum up, the right partnerships make payments work harder for your business. They help you grow faster, approve more transactions, and reduce the operational hassle, and help you expand into new markets.
Fantastic, Roy. Thank you. So, Mihal, I'm going to turn to you first, please. Where and how Retail InMotion partners with external organizations?
For any business, it really depends on where you are in terms of the size of the business, how you've grown over the years. For Retail InMotion, we have our own payment gateway. We created our own payment gateway. We're connected to over 11 acquirers. So we are. Why? Because we saw value in doing that, in expanding and be able to solve a lot of the problems that Roy has just mentioned there as well. I know that in a previous existence, a previous role, and I mentioned it earlier on, when I took a hybrid orchestration proposal to the C-suite, and the CEO first vetoed it. The next time round, when the education was in place and the data and the collaboration, that was approved. Why? Because we were able to demonstrate very clearly the problem that we're trying to solve for all of the reasons that Roy has just mentioned there as well. What revenue stream you created in payments for B2C or B2B. In this instance, we were able to create a B2B revenue stream. Why? Because we were able to leverage that orchestration platform to create sub-merchants under a pseudo PayFac structure, so that now our relationship with our B2B customers, we were actually pushing that through. The goal was to push that through the same platform. So with payments, payments is a volume-driven business, as we all know. So we're able to put more volume through to be able to reduce costs as well at the same time. That's where, depending on where you sit today in your organization, you can derive value out of it. For Retail InMotion, we've actually derived more value out of being able to have our own payment gateway and to be able to connect directly into the acquirers.
Brilliant. Thank you, Mihal. Adam, I'm going to turn to you next. The use of external partners partnering with external organizations. What are your views?
So we've kind of taken a different approach here, where we've migrated from multiple PSPs down to a single PSP. The driver behind that was that it simplified the reconciliation process for our finance team and allowed us the easy analysis of data we're pulling from one source, and we're not trying to compare like for like across multiple PSPs. Another partner that's been really beneficial to us has been a company called Blackfoot UK. They deal with all our PCI DSS compliance issues. They provide the ASB scans. They provide us with a list of action items that are needed to get us to be PCI compliant, which we just don't have that knowledge and skill internally to do this ourselves. And the last company that's been really beneficial for us has been MasterCard's Ekata, and that provides us business intelligence for fraud screening, allowing us to filter out illegitimate customers and just retain the fewer customers into our order flow.
Fantastic. Thank you. Fahim, I'll ask you to give me a few words, please, on this one in terms of partnering with external organizations. We're getting tight for time, guys.
Well, so I'll be very quick. So obviously, as I mentioned, we have a couple of PSPs where we work for a very long time. And I mean, it's always good because they actually operate in different countries. I wish we had like one or two PSPs which cover all the global framework, but unfortunately it's not. But also, it's also the business decision, so that if one PSP fails, we still have another one. So we have different local methods and different acquirers as well on that case. And then, of course, we do have like fraud platforms and also KYC, KYB platforms. So it also mixes with that. It's not easy to deal with multiple vendors, but it's the business choice. And I think at the moment we're quite happy with them, and looking forward to not onboard a lot, but it's the business requirement.
Fantastic. Thank you. So finally, we've established our function. We've got things going great. We've got those quick wins. We've got our reporting lines, and we're into the business as usual situation. But Adam, how do you identify areas for further improvement, and what processes do you have to make that happen?
The biggest area that we get improvements from is our CS department. If, to use a metaphor, if the e-commerce business was a body, the payments would be the heart, but the CS team would be the eyes and the ears. They see and hear everything that's going on, and they're the greatest source that we're getting improvements fed back to us of what customers are experiencing, being on top of our data as well, and just going through making sure that we're constantly analyzing what is happening with there. Is there any pain points? The WBRs, MBRs do help flag that up, but the daily reviewing, going in there and checking it daily, even hourly, of just what's going on.
Fantastic. Fahim, anything you'd like to add to that in terms of the processes that you have in place to find out how you can keep making things better, continuous improvement, I guess?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest thing is the data transparency, because different team has different dashboards and sometimes they make different assumptions. If we have all the same dashboard, same metrics, the company probably will not lose a lot of money because, sometimes the reality is different and every team has different data results.
Okay, great. Thank you. Mihal, anything you'd like to add to those responses?
Just start with the problem you're trying to solve, and then work from there. So if it's, reducing declines to improve conversion, if it's actually reducing costs so you can hit that bottom line faster, but start with the problem that you're trying to solve and then take it from there.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Just wrapping up now in terms of key takeaways. And these are really essentially taken from the report, and many of which we've covered in the discussion today. So one of the key things that the report argues is the need for C-suite involvement, active C-suite involvement. The chief executive of the train line, I can reveal to you exclusively, it was them, did say that his CPO, chief product officer and chief finance officer, take part in quarterly face-to-face meetings with the payments teams, inside the train line. Identify issues and look for solutions quarter to quarter. We've spoken about the importance of creating that cross-functional payments group. We've mentioned Spotify before as actually building out an entire internal payments function as being, I guess, almost a kind of aspirational model to follow. The quick wins, the guys have discussed this very well today. From the report, you'll see Oblique Pet Foods actually achieved a 12% saving on fees by going for a higher volume contract with their acquirer. Something as simple as that. And then the guys have also discussed how to identify and communicate those metrics that matter. And I think I won't dwell on that one because I think the discussion of that was so rich. Everybody we spoke to for this report, every single organization uses a wide range of expert partners across geographies and functions. So that to me is another key takeaway here. And then also using data, and again, the guys have spoken about this at length today very well, the importance of gathering data, analyzing data, and using that to inform ongoing improvements in payments that are going to deliver greater revenue, better profit, and a smoother customer experience. So really, all that remains for me to do is to thank our panelists, Fahim, Roy, Adam, and Mihal, for their contributions today. It's been an amazing discussion. We're very grateful to you. Thank you all very much for attending today. Thank you.
That's it for this episode of Making Payments Make Sense. If you found this useful, subscribe. We'll be bringing you more honest conversations and practical insights from the people shaping payments every day. And if you'd like to go deeper, you can download the full report, Making Payments a Profit Center, via the link in the show notes. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.